when the NERS requests are submitted, there is a correspondence with Ex Libris, and then people can say what exactly they mean, because sometimes the request isn't 100% clear. It might be something that's already planned. In any case, it's not something that is submitted and then the next month is done. So these are ones which were done fairly recently, and we have a NERS page where everybody can see everything that's happening with the NERS. And also on this NERS page, I'm going to send out the link to this NERS page to everybody. And on here is the description of the different NERS requests. Also on this page is the links to PowerPoints of what I'm going to show today. I'm just going to show a little bit of those PowerPoints. And let's take a look at what we plan on showing. So the first one we're going to show is actually the last one that appears here. We're going to start here with updates to due dates of borrowing requests for resource sharing and fulfillment. Then we're going to go to the customer defined locations in the Get It menu, the hyperlink to the invoice from within the purchase order line, and an enhanced ability to filter a set using an indication rule. We're also going to look at a new feature for creating those indication rules. And let's begin. And so we're going to start with this one, the updates to the due dates. This is NERS 6962. So just as an example here, if someone wants to see the PowerPoint from this page, it's here together with the description of the development. Let's go there and there. There we are. So this is the NERS 6962. It's got a description, the requirement, the high-level solution, etc., and a link to the PowerPoint. And we're just going to look at the very beginning of this PowerPoint, just so that we have the general scope of what we're looking at, why we even want to have something like this. So what we've got here is, this is from the actual description of the development in the release notes. A user has a borrowing request on loan. In other words, a user from my institution requests something from another institution. That's a borrowing request. And then requests that this be renewed. When a borrowing request is renewed, first a message goes to the lending partner. The lending partner is the other institution who sent it to our institution, and they need to confirm the renewal. So first a renewal request is sent, then the item is either renewed or the renew is rejected. So the users wanted to see, or to say more than that, the institutions wanted that the users will already see a future date because a request was renewed. However, that there will also be an indication that the renewal is still being requested. And let's take a look at how this works. So I'm going to go to Alma. Here we are in Alma, and we'll log in. And in order to see all how this should work, first we're going to look at the setup. It's a very simple setup. And then we're going to go create a request, receive it, loan it, renew it, and see how that renewal date appears. So let's start with the definitions in the resource sharing library. So to go to the resource sharing library, I'll go to configuration on the bottom left. Then we'll go to general, add a library or edit library information. And under the libraries tab, we'll go to the resource sharing library. Here we are, resource sharing and edit. Okay, so in here, we have a section called borrowing request. Hold on, organization unit, rock one moment here. Borrowing setup section, mark resource. There we are, borrowing setup. We have a new checkbox here called extend due date when renew requested, and the value that we can add here. Now, the idea here isn't to put in a value. In fact, you can only put up to 9. The idea here is to put in a number big enough that the due date will be extended from what it really is until the response comes in from the lending partner. So we have here 9. I'm saying we have here 9 because we're going to see where that 9 comes into play. Let's even make it 5. And save. So we've got 5. Let's now create a borrowing request and go through the process and see what's going to happen. So we'll go back to the Alma menu and we'll go to fulfillment and resource sharing borrowing requests. And I'll just create a manual borrowing request. Normally it's probably going to be by ISO or via some kind of a protocol, but we'll just say add manually. And we'll make a book. And we'll call this Webinars on NERS Requests. And we'll give it an author. And that should be enough for our purposes. We'll give it, of course, a requester. And a partner. We need to send this somewhere. And we'll choose the Waikiki Beach University, Hawaii. And we'll send. So now we've sent our request. And I'm in the list of resource sharing borrowing requests right now. So if I filter by today, we see our request right here. And we see that it's status sent to partner. So we'll assume now it's already sent and it arrives because we want to show the whole flow. So now the item arrives. So within fulfillment resource sharing, we'll say receive items. And we'll receive that item. Oh, we got to go to the proper desk. Sorry about that. So we'll go to the resource sharing desk. And we'll receive. And we got the barcode here, which by default is going to be RS dash and then the external identifier. Item policy 4-week loan. That's another place where I've got definitions in the terms of use, and save. So now the item arrives. The user, in this case Alicia Hen, will get a message that the item has arrived. I've got a print slip here that I can print out, put inside the item when I put it on the desk. And everything's good to go. Now the patron who received the message that the item has arrived comes to the desk to loan it. So we'll go to Fulfillment, Manage Patron Services, and we'll loan this item. Patron was not found. That's right, because I put in the barcode instead of the patron. There we go. And we loan it. So now it's on loan. I'm going to change the due date now to be today, because otherwise I won't be able to renew it at all because it's already due now, March 2nd. So I want to be, and that's already at a very late stage. We'll make it due today or tomorrow, and then we'll be able to renew it. So I'm just going to change the due date here first. This, of course, is not necessary as part of the flow. However, in order to renew it for 5 days, I want it to be due in less than 5 days. So we'll change the due date, and I'll make it today at 17:12, which is later than the current time. Okay, so now it's due today in an hour because this environment is an hour behind me. Now the patron logs into Primo, sign in, and log in. And she goes to her library card or directly to the loans, sees the item here, which is due. This is webinars on NERS requests, has an option to renew, renews it, and now it's due the 21st. It's due the 21st because we had 5 in the days there in the resource sharing library in the extend loan for resource sharing. I'm going to show that in the PowerPoint. We put here, extend by due dates, we put 5 here. We checked extend due date and we put 5. So now we can even show it here too. Configuration, resource, let's go to Alma University, which is my environment. General, add a library or edit libraries, resource sharing. Because we put 5 here, it extended the loan 5 days. Today is the 16th. It extended it to the 21st. So this is the development here. The user already sees a new due date in the future, yet the user already also knows that it's really pending approval from the partner. We can also see this in Alma. If we come here to the borrowing requests, fulfillment borrowing requests, and again, we'll filter by today, there will be an indication that renew was requested. The renew is requested, and if we come to the patron, fulfillment manage patron services, here we've still got the original due date. So the patron, it's patron facing, the patron is seeing the new due date with an indication that it's waiting for the renewal to be confirmed. Let's take a look here, make sure we covered everything. We defined that we want to extend the due date when renew is requested, and that's exactly what happened. The patron requested renewal, and it was renewed by 5 days in our case. We created a resource sharing request, which was sent to the partner. We received it. We gave it a due date here when we gave it a different due date already when we received it. We changed the due date after it was loaned. In our case, it was due 16 February. The patron clicked renewed. It got a new date with an indication that the renewal request was sent. And we also saw inside the borrowing request list that the request status is renew requested. Now, when the lender approves the new request, the patron will receive an email, and then the due date will get automatically updated to whatever is the real new due date. I see some chats came in. Let's see. Okay, so someone asks if the lending library does a renew no, in other words, they don't approve it, is the patron due date change shortened? Yes. If it's rejected, then it will go to the original due date, which we see inside the patron list here. If it's rejected, it will be what we see here. What is the original? Someone says, regarding the resource sharing, does it apply to Primo Back Office and Primo V? Yes. I'm showing it in Primo V, but it applies to Primo Back Office as well. Also to Summon. It applies to the Discovery interface. Okay, so that covers that one. Let me just see if there's any more on this. Nothing else on this. You have the full PowerPoint there. In the link that I sent, and let's move on. So let's take the enhanced ability to filter a set. This one really is my favorite. I didn't start with it, but it is my favorite. And this one really is two-part. I will open the PowerPoint. I'm going to show two developments all in once. The first part of this development is going to be available in March. Some of the people on the call here, from what I see, the webinar, have actually been involved as users testing this out, but let's see what I mean. If I were to come now into the list of Alma indexes, I'm going to say Alma search indexes, and if I were to look, for example, at how the subject is indexed, let's go to Mark 21 search indexes. I will see that we have a general subject index, and we have this is this way, we're going to get the other table. We have a general subject index, which includes a lot of different 6XX fields and a few others. Let's go to subject here. Then we have subjects LC and subjects mesh. So when I search for subjects, it's including all of these fields with their subfields, or I can search for subjects LC, in which case it's looking if the second indicator of the 6XX field is 0, because that means it's Library of Congress subject heading. Or I can search by medical subjects, and then it's looking if the second indicator is 2. But it may be the case that I want to find all those with a second indicator 4. For example, if I go to 650, it'll say source not specified. I want to search for all of those with a 650 with the second indicator 4, source not specified. Maybe I want to see if I can change them to a real vocabulary. There could be a million reasons why I would want to search for those. For that, we need an indication rule. But that indication rule can now be built into right after I save and click Save Query, because now I can save query and filter all in one shot. But that's not all. We can also create that indication rule in a very user-friendly way. So I'm going to show the metadata editor. Notice I didn't say open the metadata editor. I said show the metadata editor, because nowadays the metadata editor is always open. We're merely showing it. And under rules, I'm in indication. I'm at rules, and I'm going to create a new indication rule. And I'll say here, for example, I'll call this afternoon, just so we'll be able to find this one easily, because this is the afternoon session now. So I'll say afternoon 650 for a library science. We're going to assume I want to look for everything that has a 650 second indicator 4 with text library science. Now note, not only can I create the regular DRUL like I could always do, or the XSL like I could always do, but now I have a form. This is new here, a form. Let me put in a description. So I'm going to create this using a form. It's going to be a shared indication rule. Those of you who are familiar with our indication rules, if I say Alma indication rule examples, it's kind of like coding. Look how easy it is to find our documentation. I just go into Google. First shot, I found the list of indexes. First shot, I found the Alma indication rule examples. So these are the rules, which are the indication rules. And you can see there's all kinds of when, then, and if exists, if not exists, etc. So now there's an easy way to create these. I'm going to make it a bibliographic Mark 21 indication rule and say save. Now, instead of starting to type all that code, I can select my field here from this list. I'm going to select 650. Then it asks me, what do I want for my first indicator? I'll leave it blank, and that'll mean everything. What do I want for my second indicator? Look how easy this is. I'm going to choose for, source not specified. Which subfield do I want? I'll say A. Then I'm done with that. Then I'll say equals library science. Now note, I could have said equals, not equals, is empty, is not empty, contains phrase, not contains phrase, starts with. Excuse me. But I'm saying 650 second indicator for subfield A equals library science. There's a lot more to do, by the way, with this form. But we don't have time now to spend an hour just on this wonderful new form. And now I'll save it. Rule was successfully saved. Let's just make sure we got it correctly there. 650 asterisk 4A equals library science. Great. Now, if I were to come along here and do a search for, let's say, physical titles, subjects, library science. Now, I'm going to get everything that has library science in all of those different fields there, all the 6xx's, and even if I'm just talking about the 650s, it's going to be second indicator 0, second indicator 2, second indicator 7, when you have in the subfield 2 the vocabulary, a lot. But I want from this only those with a second indicator 4 in the subfield A library science. So it used to be, before this NERS request, that I had save query. Now we've got save and filter query. We'll say save and filter query. I'll call this afternoon library science. I'm going to call this main set because we're going to see that this then gets further filtered. And private, it's not private. And save. It could be private. That's the functionality will work. Now, not only do we have save and filter. So now I'll choose save and filter. And now I can choose an indication rule. So I'll choose that indication rule, afternoon 650 underline 4. That's the one we just made. And instead of calling this filtered, and by default it gives today's date and time, I'll call it filtered has 650 second indicator 4. I'll even say second indicator 4. I don't know how long this can be, but we'll find out in a minute. That should be enough. Private, no. Also, filter this set. Confirm. So now I'm actually creating two sets. I've got this main set right here and another set, which is going to be the filtered one. Here it is, afternoon library main set. Let's take a look at that one. Members or results. Afternoon, let's just see back. Oh, I opened the main set. Thought something didn't work for a minute. This is the main set, not the filtered one. Main set. So the main set has the 100 records that we found. In the filtered set, members has 3. All of these records in this set, I'm going to go back for a minute. This was created right now. 1625, that's the time here on the server. 16 February, that's today. Members, all of these records, if I open any of these, will have a 650 underline 4 with library science. Let's take a look. Here's the first one. Should be a 650. Here we go. And here's another one. 654. Yep. And this last one should also have it. 654 library science. So I can pinpoint a specific field. I can even do by a position in a field if it's a control field. I can say it doesn't have something, it does have something, it has a phrase, it doesn't have a phrase. You saw the options there. So of all of these 100 records here, I was able to get the precision of getting only those records where the subject has the 650 second indicator 4 in library science. Very nice feature. Let me see if there's any questions or comments there. I'm going to look in the chat. No questions or comments. Is everyone still with me here? Just say, yes, we still hear you. Yes, we still see you. I always get concerned when there's no comments. Okay, somebody says still here. Thanks a lot. Okay, so let's see what people say. There is a question or comment here. Is this form-based way? Let me go. Someone said great feature. Thank you. Someone said still here. Okay, so someone says, is this form-based way to make indication rules going to be extended to all normalization rules as well? This looks like it will make rules super easy to create and modify. I on purpose, and I and my colleagues decided beforehand here, I don't want to get into other developments. We're just sticking to these specific NERS developments. I will, however, say that when one area gets developed and it takes off and has very good feedback, we usually take that direction and continue it. But I'm not going to say, yes, normalization rules will also use this form. Excuse me for that, but I don't want to get into the development stages here, future possible developments. Okay, so that's that one. You've got the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint focuses on the filter and query part, but I will tell you, those of you who are interested, you're strongly encouraged to come to, I believe it's next week, Roadmap Themes. We've got this nice Roadmap Themes webinar going on. In fact, we had yesterday part of it. We had the controlled digital lending. So next week, February 22nd, if you come to the catalog analysis best practices, we'll also be talking about this topic more in depth. Not the whole hour, but we will go more than the little bit I did now. Okay, so you're invited to come here. In fact, I'll send out this to everybody, this link, because here you can register for all of these Alma 2022 Roadmap theme webinars. Strongly encouraged. And the week after that, not the week after, the session after that is about linked open data. All of these are you're strongly encouraged to come. Anyway, let's go on. Let me just see if there's any other comments. This form includes the 9XX fields as well. I see who asked that. Let me ask you, do you think it includes the 9XX fields? Yes or no? Person who asked it, do you think it includes the 9XX fields as well? Okay, the person said yes. Not only does it include it, look, I could take this one. I always get carried away here, but I could take this little rule, copy it. Now I got it again, so I don't have to recreate one. And if I wanted a different field here, type or select field 9, I can take all of these, and it goes all the 900s. Look at that, all the 900s. And if I defined a specific something or other in my 900s, it'll be here. And even if I didn't, it's going to be here. They're all here. And you could even just start typing. You don't have to scroll through. And there you go. Everything with a 9.1 I got here. 9.10, 9.11, 9.12, etc., etc. Okay, let's move on because we don't want to get carried away. But I did say that was my favorite development of the 4 we're showing. Let's move on now. Another nice one. They're all nice, but you know, this is probably my second favorite of the four. One we're going to show now. And this is enabling customer-defined order of locations in the Get It menu. Now, I called this locations in the Get It menu, but it's actually libraries and locations. Although location is kind of a term that sometimes is used for library. The Alma term for location is the 852 subfield C, library location, that used to be called a collection in the legacy systems, not only Aleph, the other ones as well. In any case, we're talking about the library and the location, the 852 B and C. Let's see what we mean here. And so this is from the release notes. Customers can define a list of libraries and list of locations within a library in a prioritized order and have this order reflected in Primo or Primo VE search. So let's take a look here. I will come here and go to title, and let's look for the barbecue cookbook. I believe that's what it's called. I don't have my notes with me today. Usually I get all my notes out and I don't have them next to me. But that is the one we want, the barbecue cookbook. Now you can see here we have three different libraries with two different locations. Let me make that a little larger in case you can't see it in the WebEx. We have the art library, the education library, and the main library. And within the education library, we have two different locations, the reference location and the psychology location. And we have now, I'm going to go to the configuration menu, and I'm going to go here, and locations ordering profile. Underneath the fulfillment menu, we have the locations ordering profile. I just want to see. Okay, that was about the indication rules. I'm going to hold on to the rest of the questions about the indication rules. I see it's a hot topic. Come next week, we're going to go more in depth on it. And if we have time later, we'll answer those questions as well. Anyway, under the fulfillment, we have the ability to control the order, locations ordering profile right here where I'm moving my mouse. Under the discovery interface display logic, locations ordering profile. Right now I have use custom sorting set to no. That's on purpose because I want to show the before and after. So I'm going to go to the discovery, and here also I'll search for the barbecue cookbook. And boom. I think that's the one I wanted, the barbecue cookbook. Yeah. Okay. Now notice it says here, available at Art Library. It's showing the first one. And then when I click it, the libraries appear. There's different ways to set up the library. It's by availability, and if all the availability is the same, it's an alphabetical. And that's exactly what we see here. We have the art library, then the education library psychology, then we have the education library and the reference, then we have the main library. And they're all in alphabetical order, art, education, main. And then we also have within the location, psychology is before reference because P is before R. And I'm going to take a picture of this, function that, okay. And there we go. Because I want to compare. Now we can order the libraries and we can order the locations within a library. And let's do that. So we'll go back to that locations ordering profile. And now I'm going to say use custom sorting, yes. And now I can set the custom libraries order. I've already got it set this way, but I can say add and add another library and say which order do I want it in. I've got first the education library, then the main library, then the art library. In fact, I'm going to take another picture so we can see that one too. And here, I'll take this one and I'll put that here. So now we've got a picture of how it appeared before. And then we also have a picture of our setup. And I'm also going to say in the education library that I want the reference before the psychology. Because right now I want to do something different than what I've already got. Because right now we have the psychology before the reference. So I'm going to put reference before psychology. So we can do that also in the configuration menu. We're going to say which order they're in. So first we're going to go to that education library, and then there's a discovery priority for the order. Let's do it. So I'm in Alma University. I'm going to switch to the education library. Then we're going to go to the list of locations. And let's say we said which one did we say? We want the reference to be before the psychology. So I'll go to the reference here. And we've got this new one, discovery priority. I can say I want this as it normally is, first or last. I'm going to say first. Save. So reference will be first. Psychology will be last. Save. So everything's saved. We defined where the psychology will be, where the reference will be. We defined, let me go back to the Alma University. We defined the order. Again, that's in the locations ordering profile. We said yes, and we set it like this, and we have a picture. Now we're going to do another search here. Search. And let me refresh the whole thing. I'm going to do a brand new search. I'm going to refresh this. Okay. Barbecue cookbook. Library catalog. Hold on. Let's see. Use custom, this, save. Okay. Let's make sure we're going to go to fulfillment and locations ordering profile, use custom sorting, education main art, save. Okay. I'm going to close that and open up a brand new one. Primo. Just to get it refreshed. Barbecue cookbook. Ah, nice. I already know the order was different because when I search here, it says available at, and it's showing the first one. Previously, it was showing the art library. So now we have education library. This is perfect. Education library, main library, art library. Okay, previously we had this. I'm going to put them right next to each other. Previously we had art library, education library, main library. Now we have education, main, art. Previously within the education library we had psychology and then reference. Now we have reference and then psychology. And the reason for that change is because here I set the order like this. I'm putting everything right next to each other so we can see. I have the education, then the main, then the art, order 1, 2, 3, and that's what's appearing. So if we want to stress or make more prevalent a certain library, make a certain library less prevalent, we can move it to the top, we can move it to the bottom, and then within the library, we can change around the order of the locations. Nice feature. Let's just come here and make sure we covered everything. So I took a picture just like here. In fact, it's the same item, the barbecue cookbook. We saw the order and we wanted to change it this way. So we went to the locations ordering profile, which is new. We chose to do custom sorting. We set the order. We added each library with its own order. We saw these initial results. This is before I changed the locations within the education library. Before and after, just like we showed now. Then we said, let's go change the order of the locations. And we went into the physical locations and we went to the new field of the discovery priority. And we said, which is first and which is last. And then we saw our final results. Let's see if there's any questions or comments on this one. Let's go into the chat. I don't see any chats on this. Someone says, is this also working with Primo Classic? This is the Get It tab. Yes, this is going to work because this is the Get It tab. Primo and Primo Classic are both using an API to bring the Get It tab, so yes. Okay. I think I got all of the questions. Someone says they posted something in the Q&A. Okay. Can you say location first and location last? What if you have a list of locations in a library and you want to put in order? You can say first, you can say last, and then the others will be as they normally are. For the locations, for the libraries, you can give a very specific order. Is this working on different views on Primo V? Yes, because again, it's bringing the Get It tab. I don't want to get into the technology and all that stuff, but there's a Get It tab, which there's an API that's just bringing it and planting it inside the Primo. Even never mind if it's in Primo Classic or Primo or Summon, it's in all of them. But also there are places who have made their own discovery completely with APIs. It'll be there as well. Okay, it looks like I got them all. I'm scrolling down again. Others says, someone says, we'd like our next step to have our biggest libraries at the top and then the others sorted alphabetically. Well, you could sort them alphabetically manually. If you want the art library before the main library, because A is before M, you could say A will be 1, art library will be 1, and main library will be 2. And if your education library is the biggest one, even though E is before A and M, you could say education will be 1, and then art will be 2, and main will be 3. You could hard code whatever you wanted. But Alma's not going to look at the number of bibliographic records with inventory in a certain library. That you'll need to do on your own. Alma can look at that, but not for the sake of the ordering of them. Okay, 1745. Let's go on. Okay. Another hot topic here. Linking from a purchase order line to a invoice. Let me just say there are places, they might all be gone by now, but let's say there were places. Alma's been around now since summer of 2012. It's been live since summer of 2012. We're going to be soon summer of 2022. I assume we're going to be having a big celebration. It'll be 10 years of live Alma. I assume there's going to be one. I'm not part of the marketing department, but it seems like a good idea. Hyperlinking from the purchase order line to the invoice. So I started saying there's a lot of places that used to exist. There might still be a few laying around, but I think we covered them all, where people would copy something and then go search for it. For example, I'm in a purchase order line, I'm viewing the invoice line, and then I want to go to that invoice, so I copy the invoice number, I paste it into the search, and then I'm there. So here's the actual release notes. Now when editing purchase order lines, and we're going to see this in a moment, and accessing the invoice lines tab, the invoice numbers on the invoice lines are clickable and linkable to the invoice. I don't know what the difference is between clickable and linkable, but the invoice opens in a view mode. Note that only users with the roles that allow viewing and editing can view this link. Click back from the invoice to be directed back to the location from which you click the invoice line, because there's two places from which you can click it, we'll see. This is the actual requirement that came in through the NERS, through the user group. There's frequently a need to access an invoice information while working on the purchase order line. Staff need to be able to view the payment date, check number, et cetera, et cetera. So they want to go directly into it. And let's take a look. I'm going to go view a purchase order line. Let's go take a look here. And back. Let's go to order lines. Future of the book implications. Let's see how many purchase order lines I have with the title Future of the Book Implications. Only one. So if I edit this purchase order line and I go to the Invoice Lines tab, so I can click here now. This is the invoice line that's associated with this purchase order line. And if I want to go to this invoice, one option, of course, I could copy that and then I could search here and put it here and say invoices and put in the number, or I could just click right there and I'm immediately inside the invoice details. Note that I'm in view mode. That's going to depend on the fact if I could see it or not is going to be dependent on my roles. And if I click back here, it brings me directly back to where I started from. Then another place, if I want to see the details of this invoice line, I'll say view. So now I'm viewing the details of this purchase order line. This part on top, if I click here, this will also bring me directly to the invoice. And I can go back. Now this part on top, I'm going to make my resolution a little smaller. I make the resolution a little larger for the webinars. It's normally here on the right. So I'm viewing the invoice line details, not just the one row that we saw before. And I click here and I go right into the invoice. And then I can see everything here. I can see all the invoice lines. By the way, I could click right here too. Not only back, I can get here and I'm right into the purchase order line. So I'm always back and forth. I don't need to start copying and pasting and searching. Everything's ready to go. Let's go look at that PowerPoint. Make sure we covered everything. So here we are in the invoice line. We clicked the invoice number. And also when we did view, we clicked there on the invoice number and we got right into the invoice. And we pointed out that only a user who has the privilege to view it will be able to see it. If I didn't have permission to view it, I would have gotten a message like this. Let me see if there's any questions or comments on that one. Nope, I don't see anything. Someone says, oh, back to the library order. On notice, we have notice that's another system, we'll call it. A notice, oh, that's a trick everybody used to use. Let me just go in there. I'm going to put this so we can see it. I'm going to put this. Don't worry, I'm not going to say anybody's name. You can ask any question and your name won't be revealed. Windward. I just want to put it here because sometimes when I read a longer question, it's hard for people to follow. And I got to change my default right to left justification. There we go. Okay, so someone says, let's make that a little larger. A notice, we have a period in front of our main library to make sure it appears first. Yeah, that's a classic legacy system trick, some people would use the caret sign, the thing above the 6, because that also usually sorts at the beginning. If I remove that period on the display name, will that mess up? I'm going to change that word a bit. Will that mess up the display in Primo V? If you're now getting an alphabetical order and you get rid of that period, then it will change the order to be alphabetical. However, you can remove that period and use the method we showed now to get whatever order you'd like. If you have a sandbox, you can remove it on the sandbox and see what happens, or you could temporarily remove it and see what happens. If it's no good, put it back. I don't think you'll need the period anymore. It's because you can make that right at the top via the method we saw. Let me see if there's any others. All right, I'm going to get back to the one who asked a question about the indication rule because we do have a few more moments. Let me go get that one. I'll make my chat box a little bigger. Oh, someone says they're amazed because it's very helpful. Someone says, just amazed. This is very helpful. That's nice to know. It looks like I got them all. Hold on. Let me just look a little more. Someone asked, I can't find it, but someone asked if the underlying oh, here it is. Okay. This is the question I wanted to get. It's a good question. They're all good questions. End, enter. Oops, I don't know what's going on here. End, enter. There we go. Now I got to change my justification. Okay, for the end, in the event that we have time since we moved on from indication rules, if you build an indication rule via the form, will you be able to convert that to a Drool-based structure so you can see the underlying language structure? No, you can't convert the form to a regular, or I shouldn't say regular, to the text-based. However, I don't see that there'll be a reason to do that to see the underlying language structure. Because here you can see this is 654 equals library science. And then I could say, and the 600, and I'll say here, whatever and whatever, done, is empty. Okay, so I don't have a 600. I don't see a use case, I could be wrong, but I don't see a use case that I'd want to know this. How would it appear in a format like this? This is when exists something, then something. I think it's safe to say that here I know that this doesn't exist or it's empty. I think I've already got all of that information here. It might just be a little bit of getting used to. By the way, there's so much here. I can even make a nested search inside another one. I'm not going to get into too many details. I can change this and to an or. So simply, you see that? But this one I'm leaving and. There's a lot to do here. I can run this on something, but let's save that for another session. Let's see if there's any other questions or comments. Like I said, we'll be talking more about this next week in that session that I sent the links to. Scrolling down to see if there's anything else. Anticipated delivery date, March, next month, for the indication rule form. And it looks like I got them all. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll be sending out the recording. We're going to be using this recording. We did a session this morning and a session now. We'll be using this recording. And thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you in all of our future sessions. Have a nice day.